All right, you can go. All right, good. So what you just saw is we took down a tree at my brother's place. It actually got struck by lightning. So that happened a couple of weeks ago, and it's a nice crisp day today. Very clear, but a little bit breezy, but beautiful out. And I want to mill up this log before it spends too much time out there. One of the ideas I have is to create a live edge here for a bench or something like that. And so that's why there's kind of an urgency to getting to this log before too many bugs get into it and drill too many holes and ruin that live edge. I think everything I own is warm-blooded, so I think all the machines this morning, it's about 40 something, 42 this morning. It's not cold by any means, but everything here in Florida is not used to that. So even the Woodlandmills took a little bit longer to start this morning, so it'll get warmed up. I never had a problem with it starting, so I didn't expect it this morning, but let's get this on. So what I ended up doing, or what I decided to do, I just kind of started to take off these in 2-inch pieces. And that left me, I'd say, about a 1/2 inch or so off of this guy. So he might be a little bit thicker than I expected, but I think that'll be all right. So I'm going to flip this over and do the same thing I just did. I'll index it at that end, and I'll measure out and start cutting down these 2-inch pieces from the top, and then should wind up with what'll be left over. Should be that middle piece, that really the pith of it, obviously, and then the live edges. And then I'll have to put hopefully at that point everything will be fairly even, and I'll be able to just sandwich the two and start taking and squaring those up a little bit, and that hopefully will make it easier. So I'll be able to take this piece I just took off. This actually piece, I like this one. I might leave that live edge, and the same for this piece that's underneath this one. I might leave those both as live edges, so I'll get like 3 live edges out of this. But that top piece, it's got a lot of arc to it. That'll probably just end up becoming a 2x4 or something like that. So I'll get this guy rolled over. The nice part is I'll be able to take it off of our jack, because now this is fairly leveled. And also over here, I'll be able to lower the log stops and put the the clamps fairly low on this log, so I can just run right to where it's at and not have to worry about hitting those. So let's get this guy rolled over and mill the rest of him. I cleaned this one up more than I normally do, just so that you guys can see kind of what's going on underneath the bark. You'll see a lot of the little bore holes and the insects. That's the layer that they tend to stay in. I think that if I could get these logs and drop them and mill them almost right away, that I could reduce a lot of this. But a lot of the logs that I salvaged, they're already dead. This tree in particular got struck by lightning, and so in this case, it was already standing. I'm sure some of the bugs got in there before we ever cut it down. Before I load this one up, I thought I'd show you real quick kind of what I do. Since I load these by machine, and they're usually pretty good sized logs, this is kind of how I like to tuck away the parts and pieces, and I've learned that from not doing that and bending these bolts that tighten it down. So I try to tuck them in like that so they're less likely to get damaged, and then I just lay the long dogs down next to it. So I do that on both sides as much as possible. I try to lay it down flat, and then just make sure you put in your tallest log stops. Try not to forget that step. I just usually put them pretty high because I'll adjust them once I get the log on there. This is this is how I level the pith. It's pretty easy just to use a kind of a steel ruler helps, I think, the best. It's easier. Just kind of lay it up to it. And I put a board down that's like kind of a reference. It sits flat on the rails. So I have something to measure to, and I can slide it or move it around wherever the end of the log winds up. So this one's about 11.5. The other end is actually about 11.5. This was probably, since I had to cut off the wedge at the bottom, this was the first section of the tree coming up. So I expected it to not have much of a taper to it. So this would be a great log. So I'll walk you through laying out a log real quick. At least kind of what I've found or what I kind of prefer to do. Everybody has sort of their own method. Definitely find your own method. But I look at the log, and you can measure the log. Easy way to do it is use like a tape measure or a steel ruler or something like that. It's about 15 1/4 that way, and it's probably almost 16 this way. So 16 by 15 in this log. So you have a choice. One of the dimensions that you're going to do is going to be the width, how wide your boards are. And so this is all the board widths that you could get out of this, kind of these ticks. I used the actual ruler scale to make these marks. And then I made ruler marks here. You'll see some of the marks are based on this scale, but the other marks are based on what the log bed would look like. So let's say I put 7 inches at the pith. So I put the pith at 7 inches. That would give me 1 2x, 2 2x's, 3 2x's, 3 actual like 2-inch materials. And so that puts us right here. But by way of a scale, that wouldn't be 13 inches. It's actually about in between. It's 13, just shy of 13.5. So 13 3/8 maybe. So you can lay out your log the two different ways. And so I didn't know that, and I didn't think about that when I first started. I would just sort of always use the log ruler both ways. But I learned that whatever I set this mark at, that ends up being the width of the board. And so that would count for the edges of the board. So let's say, how wide of this board do I want to make, and do I think I can yield out? That I could use this scale for, and it would be what a tape measure would measure, right? So 2x6 would be like 5.5, 2x8, 7.5 or whatever. So that's what you'd measure with a tape measure. But the other one, this will account for the kerf of the blade as you take the pieces out. So for me, I might lay out a log and say this will be the width of my boards, and these are all my cuts to make the faces. These are all the face cuts basically. that's going to do it for tonight. It's getting pretty late already under the lights here. So we got, this is, I don't know what this one's going to turn out like. This is one of the trees that I dropped over at my dad's place. It's not southern yellow pine. It's like sand pine or short needle pine. So I've just never milled one, so we'll see what that wood looks like. But we've got I finished out the logs that you saw us drop in the beginning of this one. We've got those all done. They turned out there was some really beautiful wood in there that you guys saw there. So I tried to film some of the wood, real clean, not a lot of knots in it. And this is kind of how we ended up with it all stacked out. That's the live edge one. It's got the rounded edges on it. And then down below I ended up just squaring them off and making a lot of 2x material out of it. So you can see there, one of the 2x's here, 2x there. Split the pith on that one. Just went ahead and ran it like that. An inch either side of that. So that's our stack. Got it all strapped down and stickered. Put a little bit extra stickers in it to see if I can't hold it from twisting and warping and everything. So over the next couple of days I'll have to keep coming out and putting a few more clicks on these straps as all this stuff dries out. But that's where it is for now. So got the last few pieces. You saw me take the tops off. I just throw them back on the mill a little bit later. See if I can't make some 1x material. This is probably like about a 1x6. Came out of these. That's the few tops that I did. Those you just kind of run out later. And I didn't wind up with much sticker wood. Got a few more of those I could probably run through the mill. But it's getting late. I'm hungry. And time to call it a night. So see you guys. Appreciate everybody that watches. Really appreciate everybody that subscribes. Thanks so much for that. And that's going to do it for today. You guys check back and see if the next time we're making some more house progress. So thanks again, and we'll see you next time.